What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube?
What's up, YouTube?
What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? We're a couple of cunts, and we've been in the countryside for 50 episodes now. So today, we're taking a look back. So, 50 episodes
Indeed.
of this shit.
And
That's kind of offensive, really, when you think about it. I think what's even scarier than that is that the grand running time of this series is about the same as the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. Frodo's epic journey across Middle-earth to destroy the One Ring is about as important as us rambling about old Batman TV shows and Russian astronaut shit.
And even scarier, there's that much stuff that we've recorded which hasn't gone out. So on top of all that 10 hours, there's another 10 hours of stuff just sat around in the vault with us, just stood there like...
Which will never ever see the light of day. I mean, for this we are going to show a few clips of episodes that never made it, but there's certain things that just don't need to be seen by the general population.
No, we were quite considerate with some of the stuff that we cut because, you know, some of it is pretty horrible.
The things that we cut out, or the things that just get missed when the camera starts rolling.
Yeah, there are a few choice moments. Quite a lot of them very, very offensive to certain people.
Certain
or most
nationalities.
People, really. Yeah.
This is how he rolls.
Well, hey, it's not always entirely me. There are a few moments which are you as well.
I'd like to see you name one.
I'd like you to shut up.
No, that's not why we're here, you
No, this is true.
chode monster. We're here to celebrate 50 episodes of A Couple of Cunts in the Countryside.
I'm not sure celebrate's really the right word, but...
We're here to mark
very well,
50
episodes.
episodes. I don't think anyone expected that we'd make it this far, especially us.
No, we did stop for quite a while. I mean, we started this, December 2011.
It was.
We stopped by about August of 2012, and then we only started again, I think, April this year. So
It was just
out.
after we got married, we did our comeback episode.
Not us getting married, by the way, him and his wife. Let's just clarify that.
Yeah. I know that, yeah. Let's not get into the whole us being a gay couple thing, because I've read too many internet comments about that. In fact, the first comment that got put on our comeback video, now keep in mind this is 2 years hence. We hadn't put a video out for 2 years and people kept asking us, blah, whatever, you know, when you coming back. We re-released the summer episode that never came out. We put that out just before we did the comeback episode and people were like, yes, you come back. Put the reunion episode out and the first comment we get is, I'd ship it. It's like, thanks, Great Britain. If this is really the epitome of what you want to watch getting together, what is EastEnders these days? I mean, I don't have a TV, but...
We're better than the EastEnders. You know, we may not be the most highbrow culturally, but at least some of the stuff we say will make you think, as opposed to EastEnders, when you watch it, you physically get stupider the longer you watch it.
And you do look like both of the Mitchell brothers, so...
You know, in Bill and Ted Station, when they run at each other and combine, those who ran at each other and combine is me.
Oh, you slag!
So one day...
And you just burst out.
One day, I'm going to go for a jog, and there's going to be like a telephone pole or something in front of me, and I'm just going to go straight for it, split myself in half, and just the two Mitchell brothers will walk off.
It's a shame that we won't be filming that, because I think that would make a good DVD extra. If anyone's got any skills at putting together videos, making special effects, and you want to just film this guy jogging into a telephone pole, even if he doesn't split into two people, it could be quite amusing.
It'll still be funny.
It's always funny watching people hurt themselves, because the big thing at the minute is the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. It's all over the place, and I'm sure you're probably sick to death of it by now. We've both done it individually, and if you know have us on Facebook, you can check it out. But there's a few videos of basically people epically fucking it up, and there's this one that it's one of those videos that's absolutely horrible to watch, but at the same time is brilliant. There's this woman like doing the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge outside her house, and someone's in like the second floor window.
Yeah, it just drops the entire thing on.
Yeah, they've got like a fucking wheelie bin full of ice water. Start tipping it out, just let it go. It cracks her on the head, and she goes down like a sack of turd. It said that she was fine, but it really did look like she'd physically died on camera.
It's one of those things whenever you watch like a really savage knockout in like boxing or UFC or something, and you laugh, and then you suddenly think, did I just watch somebody get brain damage and laugh about it?
We're watching that right now, to be honest.
This is longer and more protracted brain damage as opposed to just a knockout punch. But yeah, I've got 10 beers here. We'll see how many I can get through. It's probably a few brain cells gone. It's very strange because all the other episodes, apart from Return, which had a little bit of a theme, all of them had like, okay, we're talking about crime, we're talking about terrorism. This one is very odd, us talking about ourselves. It's kind of a bit meta. We're in the countryside talking about us being in the countryside talking about stuff.
I'm not very self-reflective. I've never been one of those people
No.
who could, like, it's a CV and it says, describe yourself or sell yourself. I'd be shit at writing a dating profile, so it is weird to be a bit self-reflective.
Yeah, but, we've got this far, we might as well go back and talk to, look at the old stuff and talk to some of the old people.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a very good point. We have had a few special guests join us over the years of filming this.
Some of them more special than others.
So we decided we're going to get some of them back to talk about now. So we might as well bring back of someone you all know him. He was the first special guest we got in the show, Computer Joe. Hi, Computer Joe.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's very good.
How's life been since you were last on the show?
Same as always.
Well, except for you moved into a gigantic fucking house.
Yeah.
It's like 3 stories tall. It's got a basement.
Yeah, it's 3 stories from one side, 2 from the other, so it's like 2.5.
Does that
2.5
count?
story. It's got like a little
I
midget size.
I thought like stories were a discrete number. You can have 1, 2, or 3. I wasn't where you could really do 2.5. But
Clearly,
what do
you've
I
never
know?
seen Being John Malkovich.
I'm not an
Yeah.
architect.
No, obviously. So you filmed the kids' TV episode with us.
I
It
did.
was a good episode. It's one of our most popular ones.
It
actually.
was. I think it helps that it was a pretty universal topic. I mean, people of our
Yeah.
generation do love to reminisce about the shit they watched as
Everyone
kids.
at some point has been a child,
That is true.
I was gonna
well,
s-
actually, if you die as a baby, then technically you never got there.
but then they would have
That's
watched kids'
wow,
TV,
it's
so
No, true, and they never would have watched that episode
I
either.
hope their babies aren't your target audience.
As you say, children's TV is one of those things because everybody can reminisce, at least sort of like from our generation. The younger generation have really shit TV these days, but everybody from our generation can reminisce, go like, yeah, I remember Thundercats, I remember the Teenage Turtles and shit like that.
Oh, Jesus. Have you seen the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
I've seen
film?
the trailer.
I have seen
I'm
the
not sure what
trailer.
they are, like lumpy space people.
It's terrifying. You think back to how cool the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles as they were in this country, because
why I-
we're too sensitive to have the word ninja in a fucking TV.
Ninjas
Which
will
is why
correct our children.
talk about a bit out there.
Watching that compared to the cartoon was it's like a lot of things that they bring back. It's offensive and upsetting and kind of disturbing, and it just makes you think, what was my childhood? Much better than what we've got now.
I'd love to see a cartoon version of us.
I wouldn't. I don't think the world's ready for that.
Definitely not.
What would that even entail? What would we do that would warrant a
I don't
cartoon
know,
series?
probably me breaking out of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings every week.
I think if you tried to outsource the animation to Korea, it would probably
The North Koreans, not the
Yeah.
South Koreans. We'd have to go north.
spark off large-scale riots and general public unrest.
Well, given all the controversy over that new James Franco film, the one about them assassinating Kim Jong-un,
Yeah.
where like he
Oh,
threatened
yeah.
nuclear war over that. Jesus Christ! If we started getting animated in North Korea, I think the world literally would be a smoking nuclear crater in a few weeks.
To be honest, North Korea threatens nuclear war over looking in their general direction.
I was
True,
going to say,
yeah.
like, North Korea has done it so many times, nobody even gives a fuck. North Korea, country-wise, are the equivalent of the crazy drunk dude in the pub, who you have been drinking in that pub for 5 years and you know he's not going to stab you. The only thing you know that is most threatening is he's probably going to shit himself and sit next to you and make you smell a bit bad.
They're the equivalent of you.
I have never shit myself in a pub.
In a pub? What have you shit yourself?
I'm trying to think, I don't think I've shit myself since I got into double figures of age.
Do you have one of those boards up number of days since I crapped myself?
I fucking should. I'm going to go home and like, right, I assume the last time I've crapped myself was probably 8, so I'm going to work out the number of days to bed up until now and just keep adding one on.
Valid life choices. To get away from the
Impressive.
topic of him shitting himself, let's watch a clip from Computer Joe's episode Kids TV. Funhouse
Yes.
was a fucking kick-ass
They
show.
had some good game shows for kids. They don't have Gunge on telly anymore.
Not nearly
what
enough
happened to
Gunge.
Gunge chains?
I remember they used to do kids award shows that were literally just 2 hours of gunging people.
Did they discover that the Gunge gave people cancer or something? You
Probably.
just don't get Gunge anymore.
Have you seen Pat Sharp recently?
Oh.
His mullet fell out and he died.
Something really odd to talk of, you know, from Art Attack, Neil Buchanan.
Yeah,
He's
great
in,
show.
He's in a really, well, I say
He has
really
aged.
good.
I don't
He's-
like it.
He's in a metal band called Marseille. And maybe-
What?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a really fucking good guitar player.
The theme music for Art Attack was pretty bitch.
It
I
was
could just
quite
imagine him
rough.
just like jamming out on it.
Just to sort of mention, those were some of the earlier episodes because when we started filming, it was in the winter, and because when we did it, we were kind of kind of reduced to where we could film. So we were filming one particular place not far from his house, out in these floodlights just in the dark, which was sort of a classic location. Because as soon as it got to be the summer, or we could film at the weekends, we moved out into locations like this to show you the countryside. But I have really good memories of us just being out there in that little bit of that crunch around about gravel, just talking about our childhood, basically.
Yeah, it was interesting though, because I mean we could have been fucking anywhere with just that black emptiness as our background. We were genuinely in the countryside.
I'm surprised you haven't just CGI'd in a country scene in the background.
Jesus.
We're not George Lucas.
I was going to say the extent of my
Starlight.
special effects. Watching it back, it really was good. It was good to talk about all those shows from our childhood. Like, I think the majority of the episode we just ended up talking about Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And
Lord Z parties, yeah. The ending sequence of that, I think, took about 4 attempts because I just kept fucking it up.
Yeah. I seem to remember being quite bad at copsing at that point.
yeah, it was good. You were obviously having a good time.
Good times
with
were had by all.
That's it. And like, sometimes it can be a fucking slog to film these. Like, the days when we were like fighting against the light, or when we, you know, it was.
Were you the Age of Darkness? We were fighting against the light.
You know, we were
Paladins, Crusaders, Truth and Virtue with beer.
Totally, we were destroying everything good and wholesome about the world. Or, you know, those times when, particularly the Love episode when it had snowed and it was fucking
That was
freezing as shit
absolutely
out there.
no word of a lie. It must have been about -8 that night.
But-
it was ridiculously cold.
The majority of the time it is a real good laugh to film these episodes. And honestly, like, some of the stuff we talk about is stuff I haven't thought about in years. Like when we did the Kids TV episode, you brought up the Rotten Trolls.
I
Yeah.
fucking love that. We
The
should
Rotten
watch
Trolls
that
is something
sometime.
I have not thought about. Like, before we filmed that, I hadn't thought about it. Probably since I watched it.
If it's good children's TV, it gets better as you age.
Some of it doesn't, and some of it you watch it and you're just like, wow. Like, particularly Ren and Stimpy is one of those things that you don't quite get when you're a kid, just how fucked up it is. But
I have been watching a few bits of that again recently, and as I've said before, I will say it again now, I'm sure that is one of the reasons why I am a little bit messed up in the head.
thank you for joining us again, and
Thank you. Quite welcome.
Computer Joe, everyone.
Internet. Goodbye.
Okay, so I think we should probably dip into the back catalogue a little after that to give us time to recover. So we're going to give you now an exclusive look at one of our episodes that never got released. There's a few of these, we sort of filmed them and then through one circumstance or another they never, you know,
Some of them
made
were
it
a bit
onto the
rubbish.
internet. This episode, had it have been put on the internet, would have been called Cosmetic Surgery. Have a look. So I was watching this porn once, and it was a
Great way to start an argument. I was watching porn once.
and it was this quite hot goth chick. So I can get into this, and then she had like a forked tongue. She'd like surgically had her tongue split in two, and she could move it independently. And I was like, okay, no, that's just freaky.
Sheer
as shit.
morbid curiosity would make me interested to see what she could do with that.
Same.
Was I the only one that found that incredibly creepy?
I'm sure it would be creepy and probably a one-time only thing. You wouldn't want her as probably a long-time girlfriend taking her home to meet your parents. Just like, oh hey mum, meet this. Look at her tongue.
Do you know what? It is really impressive though, because you have to teach yourself to move the two parts separately.
Well, yeah, and that's
Pretty cool, but
yeah,
not something
but
I'm into.
not sexy. I was just looking at that and just going, no. It was like this one porno I watched where this girl had her eyebrows shaved off. I was just like, where's your eyebrows, love?
But did she essentially just look like Agent 47 with tits?
I just threw up in my mouth.
Classy as
Oh, man,
always,
I don't-
Cammy.
I barely even remember filming that one. Like we had some really good views in that one, but that was right near the end of just when we finished for the first time, and it seemed like such a weird episode.
But I think it was one of those topics where, you know, certain things we know very well, we're very passionate about, and so they flow beautifully. You know, talking about, say, alcohol is something that springs to mind, or, you know, Batman, crime flowed quite well. The things that, you know, we think we can talk about, they go. There's certain episodes where we go, this is going to be absolutely shocking, and it turns out quite well. Sports particularly stands out.
Sports and the Olympics were really good episodes, considering we have almost zero knowledge on
I
either
know,
of them.
zero knowledge, zero interest, zero physical capability, and yet those episodes went quite well. But yeah, I think cosmetic surgery was just one of those things where, like, it's a topic that's kind of interesting. Maybe we could come up with a few good points about how, you know, people abuse it, people take it too far and end up looking like a fucking demented cat. I'm looking at you, Mickey Rourke. Or, you know, I think we talked about like how whether it should be on NHS, whether it should be exclusively for people who need it for medical reasons, like a firefighter who got his face burnt off, or, you know, acid, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's just one of those things that didn't really work out that well. There are some truly memorable moments from filming. I particularly remember we were filming an episode on 2012, which was the past massively. It was basically, we filmed it, I think it was the first week of 2012.
We did, yeah.
It must have been because we talked about how trashed I got at the New Year's party.
I remember that.
But we talked about various things. We talked about the Olympics and how we didn't think they'd work. Guess that show does. Talked about, you know, films coming out and stuff like that. But that sort of, you go out with certain episodes and you think this is how they're going to go, this is what we're going to talk about. I don't think anyone could have predicted that episode would end with us running away from the woods because we thought that ghost Nazis were going to come down and kill us.
Yeah, no, that was not on the inventory for that night.
The other one is we were filming the episode on Nicolas Cage, which is our only episode that ever ended up on Reddit. There's things that will happen occasionally, and the timing is just wonderful. We were talking about Vampire's Kiss, and a bat flew into shot and practically hit him in his baldy bonds, and it just couldn't have worked out better. I think a way like that a lot of the episodes go is also very circumstantial. For instance, if we'd have filmed the Avengers episode before we'd seen it, it probably would have been more cohesive, speculating on what's going to happen, talking about
rather
comics.
than you just being like, "I'll go and say it,"
rather than me gimping. Or I can't help but feel if we'd have done the Batman episode after we'd seen The Dark Knight Rises, it would have just been 10 minutes of us doing Bane impressions. There are certain things we talk about where we need a little additional input because it's something that we don't really know about. For instance, if we had someone who knew a fucking thing about cosmetic surgery when we did that episode, it would have been good. Another episode we did was about art, which is not a topic that either of us are particularly well versed in.
Nope.
We had to get a little expert help from my then fiancée and now wife, Catherine, so let's bring her out now. How's it going?
That's all good.
Hello.
Hello.
It's that woman.
That one
That
you
one
married.
you married.
Yeah. What's that like?
It's pretty good. Occasionally this gimp's in our house though.
Yeah, I know.
To be fair, you did invite me, and I'm kind of like a vampire. As soon as I know where you live, and you invited me in.
Yeah,
or I've
you're
got
just
keys,
suddenly
I'm just
there at night.
I think the way it works out is you married me and he sort of comes along as like a tumour because you can't quite get rid of him.
Yeah, it's cool though.
You've filmed the art episode with us.
I did, yes. It was a while ago now.
It was a while ago. It
I had
was.
long hair.
You did have relatively long hair.
You
back
did
then,
actually.
yeah.
I think I remember that now.
I've got to thank you for lending us your expert opinion because honestly, if you hadn't have joined us for that episode, it would have been the fucking worst thing ever.
I love that you say expert.
More expert
Okay.
compared to us.
Slightly more informed opinion than us two who have no opinion.
Everyone's got an opinion on art. You can sit there and go, no, that's bollocks.
I like
or
wax
not.
crayons.
Yeah.
Do you like wax crayons?
Wax crayons are pretty good.
Good. There we go.
Did you ever do the thing at school where you did the wax crayons and did it with black paint and then scraped it away?
Maybe.
No.
Did you not?
I probably just ate them.
If you like, if you do like a wax crayon rainbow and then like paint it with black paint, you can scrape it away and you see the rainbow. You make, like,
So
pretty
we prob-
pattern.
I love that, like, you did a fucking degree in art, and this is, you know,
I did a degree in wax crayon.
I was probably so metal at the time. I just like made a black rainbow out of the black stuff and just sat there like, ugh.
see, this is what the episode would have been if you hadn't been there. Like, when you were there, we talked about, like, the progression of art. We talked about, you know, things that you might not necessarily consider art, whether they are art. We talked about modern art. It would have been us two, just be like, oh, wax crayons.
I've recently been to Jordan. One of the things they have there in like all the tourist shops is mosaics and stuff. So apparently they find loads of Roman mosaics there. And excuse me.
Cool story, bro.
My sister loves her art. She does some sort of design. I don't know, some sort of art. Who gives a fuck? And I thought I'll bring her back some sort of gift because I got everything for our family. Thought I'll get her something arty. There's all these mosaics. I think I ended up getting a mosaic of some flowers. I really want to get like a mosaic of a camel because that's vaguely like Middle Eastern related. But like all the mosaics of camels in this place, they look like they had Down syndrome or something. They're like these camels, but like look normal. But then right at the last minute, their head just looked the other way on their neck. So they're just like camel. Like that. It's just like I can't give her this. It looks like this camel's, you know, either been in an accident or it's got special needs. So I couldn't give her that.
This is how I feel. Have
Yeah, I was
fun.
gonna say
You look like a camel, but a bit retarded. Here you go.
Maybe we should watch a clip from the art episode to see just how much better it was with her in it. Also, the screen.
Yeah.
As you know, cliched as that is, that's a pretty awesome, piece of art.
Basically, he was like, you see the deck on the screen.
I always thought of it as a bridge, but yes.
Yeah, it's like a deck or a pier or something. And he like had a bit of a moment where like he had like a fucked up face or something, and he saw like the sky as red, and it like really fucked him up. So he did like a painting of it.
Was he tripping balls?
Must have been
Was he
tripping
higher than a
balls.
motherfucker?
Probably, I don't know.
Some of the shit Dali did, for instance, he must have been pilling off his tits.
Check out any stuff from the Fauve movement. It's basically like normal stuff like, oh, here's a bitch, but she's pink and like green and shit, and she's just like, oh, what?
God, it's weird to think that like when we filmed that episode, we would have even like, would we just have started saving for the wedding, or we wouldn't have even done any proper planning. I don't even know if we booked the venue at that point.
No, we booked in 2011, and then by 2012 we paid the deposit.
Oh wow.
So.
Funny side story for this. I was his best man, and basically the way he told me to be his best man, we were eating Chinese in Nottingham, he just said, oh yeah, you can be my best man, my boy. Alright, cool, I'll do that. Just munching on some ribs.
Well, you were the natural choice. I mean,
I appreciate that.
like you're my oldest friend and my best friend, so But it was a good day. We all babbled our opinions of it in the reunion episode. Have you got any?
What, opinions on the wedding?
Yeah.
Opinions on the happiest day of my life.
Did you enjoy
Seriously.
yourself? Did you ever, was
Yes, it was friggin' awesome.
Cool.
You got cake and you got to dance. What more do you want?
I got that out of it.
Well, that's sort of like an extra bonus on the side.
That's
really.
like the booby prize, really.
Isn't that what you got?
Yeah, she should. I was going to say she really should have married a woman for that. I can't even remember how it came up, but we were talking at one point about me wearing her wedding dress.
Oh,
and we were in the
Jesus.
car, and I talked about this, and I said I'm going to text your wife and tell her I'm going to put your wedding dress on, not shave my chest, nothing, not shave my beard, just turn up wearing
In
your
our
wedding
house.
dress in our house, and Paul will be fine with it. And you said to me something just sort of like, yeah, she won't even have a complaint about it. It's like, I bet she won't. So I text her, and she just said to me, it's just like, yeah, it probably fits you quite as well. So just like, there you go,
It would
have
look
it.
better on here.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. Just sort of like, yeah, standard really. Around your house, putting on a wedding dress, waiting in bed for your husband.
To be fair, when you've dealt with
So
us for this
used
long,
to
you have
that.
to. I know, 8 years now. She's sort of been dealing with us two gimping. So
This is the general sort of.
Longer.
This is the general sort of shit we do. It's just like, can I borrow your wedding dress? I want to rape your husband.
So thanks for stopping by. I don't really think we can.
Doesn't really have the same effect as bottle on
No,
bottle.
sorry.
It's all right.
And I'm sorry for him.
I'd be sorry for me too, but yeah.
Don't run away.
You can run away.
Okay, cool.
Run away. Most people would. Speaking of how casually I asked you to be my best man, it reminds me of sort of how this whole thing came about.
It was literally a Facebook. It wasn't even a message. You just
No,
wrote
just
it on my
wrote
wall.
on your wall. I've got an idea for a YouTube channel. We stand in a field and get blitzed to talk about shit, call it a couple of cunts in the countryside, and 3 years and 50 episodes later, here we are.
It has worked surprisingly well, actually. We have, I don't know, like 70 likes on Facebook. I don't know how many people got following us on YouTube. And
Combined total of about 2,000 views on all our videos, which doesn't sound much, but for what it is, it's not particularly revolutionary, and we're not doing anything that special. But honestly, once this is done and you can look back at it as a body of work, I think it's something I'm going to be quite proud of. I don't want to turn this into a fucking circle-jerking
No.
ranking session, but
I was exactly the same. Like, I was originally thinking about it, that why is anybody giving interest? I'm usually just drunk in a pub, just shouting about stuff and nobody cares. When I look back in sort of retrospect, sort of like, maybe we had some decent points there. And I think, other people sort of saw that as just like, I can see why this works and as why they watched it.
we're going to have another look at another unreleased episode now. This one's called Charity.
Which is the only one we did live, per se, which is the main section is one piece. There's no edits, all the mistakes were kept in, one take from start to finish.
Yeah, it would have been pretty special, but sadly never saw the light of day. But here's a sample of what it would have been like. I first was, I guess, old enough to really be bothered by those people with buckets who were raising money for charity on the street while I was at
Chuggers.
uni. But always when they came up to me, my excuse was, I'm at uni, I'm in debt, leave me alone. When I start earning, I'll give you cash. Now I'm earning, I still have not donated a penny to charity.
I will mention this. Two things I can say that I'll mention this because it's quite offensive. Someone I used to know, well, I kind of still do know, but when people would come up asking for charitable donations, no word of a lie, I don't agree with this, I wouldn't do it, but people come up asking for charitable donations and say, no, sorry, I'm Jewish, and just walk off and see what they did.
Actually, one of my friends had a good one. He said someone came up to him asking for charity. I think it was for an earthquake relief or something really quite relevant. He went, sorry, I'm ethically opposed to charity. Or the one I thought of, and I always do this, I'll always think of a witty retort or something cool to say when it's too late. Was in Nottingham.
Someone comes up to you and so like, oh, do you want to help at NSPCC? No, I don't want to save the fucking whales!
NSPCC.
Yeah.
That's children, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why it's funny. You shout out, I don't want to save whales, and they come up asking you about children, and they just stand there like,
I see what you did there. No,
yeah.
obviously,
There we go.
at the time, the bloke came up to me and I just went, oh, sorry, I've got places to be, like you do. But afterwards, I thought, what I really should have said was, sorry, I'm not trying to be stingy or rude or anything, but if I don't get to a toilet in the next 30 seconds, I am physically going to shit myself. Because what's he going to do? He's going to go, alright, go ahead. He doesn't want to deal with a person with pants full of brown. I guess it is kind of a shame that we never got to put that out, because it was something different.
You have to think a lot more, because usually when we have an episode and we're talking about something,
I can badly hack it.
I was going to say, I can literally sit there and it's just like, I know Forbes will get rid of most of it, so he'll leave about 10% of it and just like, hey look, this guy I'm filming with is a complete fucking spank batter. Let's move on. But no, with that one it was sort of, right, I really need to think now.
There's a few sort of concepts that we've come up with that never really got off the ground. Either we didn't film them at all, or we filmed them but scrapped them. When we went on holiday for the first time 2 years ago, we filmed some stuff to do a holiday episode, but the wind noise basically rendered almost all of it unusable. This is pretty much all we salvaged from it. What's up, YouTube? We're a couple of cunts, and for 1 week only, we're not in the countryside. We're on holiday! And then, there's a couple of concepts we came up with, like the charity episode, or the ghosts episode where we explored the catacombs, the literature episode where I hit him with books. We came up with ideas that would have been a bit different, but for one reason or another they never came together. When we did the heavy metal episode, for an outro we were going to film a little sort of music video, but
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
It never came about because the drum kit, we couldn't move it out into the countryside for obvious reasons. And the other episode, which to this day I'm still quite upset we never got to do, because I do think it would have been really good, was we were going to do an episode on meat, which, like alcohol, like Batman, is a topic that we could have got a lot out of. And we were also going to sort of, as the sort of different thing, the little quirky end piece, we were going to have him have an eat-off with our friend Martin, who we have featured quite a bit, where basically we were going to cook up the most monstrous burger we could think of with like 6 patties, bacon, sausages, egg, mushrooms, onion rings, everything into this monster, and then basically in a man versus food style have them see who could eat it the fastest.
It really would have been good. And I remember when I first started filming this, I was between gyms at that point, and I was still gyms. I wasn't documentary fat, but I was a good sort of 10 pounds, a stone overweight. And by the end of the time we first filmed, I'd been in a gym for sort of 8 or so months or something. I got back down to being healthy again, but right at the start, I had that fat, I had that expanded stomach. I would have eaten anything you put in front of me. So as we got towards the end, my eating abilities have diminished now. Martin probably would have beaten me, but I would have loved to have seen what I could have done, back in my prime potential.
Yeah. Martin can eat. We'll insert a picture of him now.
And Martin, here he is as well, with a fucking pipe.
We've talked about you a lot throughout the show. I don't know if you've watched, but
oh god, yes.
We do pick up on you maybe once every 10 or so episodes. Mention, jokes about you owning a sweatshop and, your facial hair, etc. How does it feel to be, I don't want to say a running joke, because that sounds really harsh, but a recurrent feature in our episodes?
Somewhat honoured.
Well, that's good, because you could have been very, very offended.
I'm going to go on record here. I don't give a fuck about offending this guy. In fact, I do everything in my power to offend this guy.
You don't give a fuck about offending anybody.
This is very true. I hope, you know what my main hope in life is? I hope you contract some untreatable internal organ failure that causes you to blood fart off your internal coil slowly and painfully for about 10 days.
Dude!
He's definitely on his 6th or 7th beer. Jesus.
I love you too.
No offence. Well, some offence.
But your inclusion in the show did sort of happen by accident.
It was the first episode. I
Yeah,
think.
we were talking about
talking
facial
about beards
hair.
and like,
Obviously,
Martin.
you came up, and we just happened to go, oh, we'll insert a picture of Martin now. I found a relatively humorous photo of you. And then it just sort of became a gag where a few episodes later you came up in conversation, we put the picture in. And then it became a sort of task for me to find increasingly funnier photos
There's
of
one
you.
of him with a beret, just sort of like.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that
I
one.
think the last one we included was you on a tiny bike or a little car or something.
Why do you even own a beret?
It was Joe's.
Oh, fair enough. Joe, why do you own a beret?
His berries are awesome.
Yeah, so there you go. One thing you are good at, Martin, is pointing out the errors in things and picking things apart.
The Marty hand.
The infamous Marty hand. You've been a pretty avid viewer of ours, apparently, so anything you'd like to pick apart? Any factual errors in our discourse?
I was
throughout the
raging
series?
through most of the politics episode, but that's disagreeing in political opinion more than anything else.
Not
Apart from
our, not our research.
Just out of interest, what did you disagree with? In that?
When you said something about the Lib Dems and it being the lesser of two evils or something, and my immediate comment whilst watching was that it's not the lesser of evils, it's kind of the absence of anything.
Which equates to the same thing, really. An absence of everything, indicates an absence of evil.
This is true. Do we want to go back to the politics episode?
No, not really.
No, maybe we should talk about something else, like the time he broke my nose.
Talking about him pointing out faults, he obviously didn't like your face, so he decided to rearrange it. Which I found quite funny when I was told about it.
For a while, Duncan was staying at my house. He stayed there for a week, and he had a airbed in quite a large playroom. One time, I can't remember what he was doing, but he ran into my bedroom, and dived on me. And then I followed him back, and as he got to his airbed, which is quite low to the ground, he fell back onto it, bounced, came back up. Now, I was just getting to him at the time, and the split reaction was that there was a face coming straight from my crotch, so I brought up to block.
Because you didn't want teeth in your nuts.
Yeah.
No, so
And
instead I got a
nose
knee in the
connected with
face.
But what was that time he almost ran you over too? That was almost like...
Almost ran me over.
Again, to be fair, he jumped on my bonnet.
For most people, that night was quite mundane. You coming face to face with your own mortality with him grinning out of his car.
Yeah, it was an important night, but for him it was Tuesday.
It was, in fact, Tuesday.
I know it was. I guess he didn't see me. No, I think it's explicitly he did see me and decided it would be a good time to fuck off.
Certainly, if he didn't see you, he certainly heard you. Stop the fucking car!
On
Good
that
times.
wonderful note, unless you plan on crippling me anymore. No. Glad to hear it. Well, thanks for coming along and appearing in person for the first time in 50 episodes.
I'd clink you, but you don't have a beer, so I'll clink the pipe.
I'll just shake your hand. Thanks for stopping by, Marty. Of course, the other people who should be on the show, we had one more episode with guests, and that was our America episode, which featured our expat mate Raz and a genuine gun-toting bald eagle of an American and his brother-in-law Chris. Now, those fucking lazy cunts couldn't be asked to make the 3,295-mile journey to be with us today, but they have recorded a very special video message to share with us on this special occasion, so let's have a look what those guys have got to say. Here's a couple of cunts in Connecticut.
So the 50th episode of A Couple of Cunts in the Countryside. I think we're all in agreement. Isn't really a milestone.
It's kind of like a speed bump, really.
Please don't make any more, because Cammy's not funny.
50 is like 49 too many.
Yeah,
I don't know why I keep watching them. They give me ideas.
We had the episode America, where we ragged on America for a little bit, and then I sang my praises about America, and I'm glad I live here and everything. There was a lot of drinking involved. I will say this about Duncan: massive penis, hair like a lion.
He does have hair like a lion. I can't.
He has a brown mane.
I can't back up.
It makes me kind of wet when I even think about it.
Congratulations, Calvin.
Yeah, but that's your ass.
Yeah, he does make my arsehole just. Cammy, just a bell end.
You know what? Duncan and Cammy, you're internationally known, and it shouldn't be that way.
When we say international, we mean in America and most likely Canada.
Probably Australia.
But they're convicts anyway, so who cares? So, please, don't make any more, because I can't take it.
Well, I really wasn't sure what to expect from that, but I think that was pretty much as perfect as I was expecting it to
That
be.
was something special there.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys, for taking time out of your busy schedules to stand in front of Old Glory. And
Yeah, no, we do appreciate that.
I suppose it's about time for us to read out some questions, submissions from the fan base.
Did we actually get any?
We got a few, yeah.
Fair enough.
We'll just do a few from Facebook. Thanks, guys, for the submissions. Any of the ones that involve nudity or us performing sex acts on each other, we're gonna leave to one side. But we've got Emma here who says, "Oh yay, some options. Not sure if you've done them already though. Sports, we've done it. Food, school, college, uni, alcohol, we've now done it. Work, porn, fashion, drugs, the NHS, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer." Any of those topics particularly stand out that you want to freeball on a little bit? We were actually going to do an episode on porn, but when it came time to actually talk about it, this guy chickened out and we ended up talking about sandwiches instead.
The NHS, don't privatise it. Work. Yeah.
He can't talk about it because
My stuff is kind of secret. Not secret, but I just can't mention it outside of
it's
the
not
office
like
I
it was for
work in.
fucking MI5 or something. It's just some Afghani, Arabian, Ugandan princes might be a bit cheesed off if we say, "Oh, you're in debt."
What else was mentioned there?
Drugs.
I've never taken any, so I've got no real opinion.
Cool story, bro. School, college, uni. There must be some.
We
some good
keep
stuff
throwing
there.
stuff up about but as well. It's just sort of like, oh, you remember this time we were at school and we like jumped out of a building and kicked each other? Or remember that time we were at uni and you drank so much your eyeballs popped out their socket?
No, but I do remember the time I drank so much at uni that I fell into a suitcase. That's genuinely what happened. I was sitting on the end of the bed. It was the last day of the first year before we were moving out of dorms. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, had drunk quite a bit, and ended up falling off the bed into my open suitcase.
One of my
Which someone then attempted to zip up. Didn't work. I was a bit bigger than the suitcase, but
one of my memories from uni was I had a really shitty shelf in my second and third year house, which I used to keep all my college notes on. College notes, uni notes on, and right at the end of third year, I had so much stuff on it, it just got to the point where it broke. All of this fell on the floor, and I'm talking 4 big folders. Well, all of my notes just went together for the entire year, maybe 2 years. Just pissed me off so much looking at it. I turned around and kicked a wall as hard as I could and really hurt my leg, and then sort of like fell over holding my leg. So I'm rolling around on top of all these uni notes which have fallen out of their folders. I'm just felt like, fuck my life.
I had a shelf in the dorms actually in the first year just above my bed, and it was like perfectly positioned for me to do a typical like wake up from a nightmare and fucking clobber my head. I've made it all the way through until about 4 or 5 weeks before the end, and they tested the fire alarms every Monday, and it was horrible. It sounded like a giant duck being raped, like to just blast it out when you're not expecting it. So that came up, I literally like clobbered it straight on, fucking VHS falling on me and everything.
That just goes to show the age of it there, being slapped by a VHS.
I know, right?
It's not a problem the kids have these days.
No, I know, they're so lucky. They didn't have to rewind the DVDs and shit. You remember that? Going to Blockbusters and getting your fucking copy of Die Hard or whatever, and it's just at the point where Alan Rickman falls off the building. You're like, no! So thanks, Emma, for those suggestions. That was pretty good. We've got this from Daniel. He wants us to talk about the current quality of Norwegian cod, or failing that, Chilean sea bass. Chilean sea bass is pretty nice, actually.
I don't think I've ever had it, but I am a big fan of cod.
Good one on that. We got a lot of mileage out of that. Will says, please offer your views on the phrase, if I'm being honest. Well, if I'm being honest, Will, that's a bit more intellectual than the stuff we usually cover on this show. But
And I don't usually have to use that phrase. I'm not one who's known for disguising stuff or buttering people up or being subtle about anything. I will just tell you if it's a shit idea.
say-
I will just go straight down the middle.
if I'm being honest, as a phrase generally implies that usually you're not. So you like bullshit your way through life and say, well, actually, this time I will tell you the truth. If I'm being honest, you're a complete cunt.
Like
So-
earlier when I, was saying to Martin, I wasn't leading him on or anything. I just told him I hope he blood farts his way off his mortal coil.
So yeah, finally we'll make this the last one. John says, I suggest you scratch your balls. This is not a porno, we're not going to do that, but thanks for contributing.
There's probably a moment when we haven't realised earlier if it's on camera already of us just sort of giving the lads a quick scratch. which is probably going to make it in the episode. If not, Neil is now going to probably watch all the previous episodes to try and find a moment where we're doing that and just add it in for comedy effect.
It happens. I mean, let us know in the comments if you spotted us scratching our balls or any other body parts. So that was the submissions.
To be
Thanks,
fair,
everyone.
I'm half the time I'm sat here scratching my beard anyway, so that doesn't really count.
It's always nice to hear from the fan base, the 12 of you who watch the episodes.
All 12 of them.
It's nice to get those contributions because I mean, generally, for the most part, this is just us spitballing and talking shit. So it is nice to know that people are fucking watching.
This is the thing for you. Not so much over here, but there's a definite group of people I know in Nottingham who for some reason seem to watch us and have asked me about it previously.
It is definitely appreciated. All of you people who take 10-15 minutes out of your week, which doesn't sound like much, but when it's to watch us gimping, really is quite a lot. We do appreciate that. And again, to the guys who've turned out today to join us and, contribute to the episode, that's always appreciated. There's one other person we probably should thank. I mean, someone who has been involved in every single episode we've done so far.
For better or for worse.
Unseen up until now. You could call him the third cunt in the countryside, but then the
fuck
title
if he
wouldn't really work, so we kind of have to discard him for the most part, but not now. He's going to get his props. Neil, our cameraman.
I just thought you could have called us a trio of twats amongst the trees.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have
three
been
of us.
nearly as good. Well, usually his only contribution is putting us out of focus and dropping his umbrella and shot. Hi Neil, how's it going?
That's good. How are you?
Yes, good.
I was kind of expecting you to do a David Blaine there, just like us sit here and ask you questions for 5 minutes and then just go.
What would he have drawn on his hand though?
Or you said dick.
Your face.
That would have been creepy. But no, and your face is one of the other men just gone.
You've let yourself down now, and you've let us down. You really
Right,
should
go
have
off
done
camera, get a marker pen.
It's cool. So yeah, the only other person who has contributed and been involved in every other episode. Do you sometimes consider how much of your life you've spent standing in the countryside filming us and just sort of get a little bit depressed?
Not until now.
Not until
We didn't have anything better to do, let's be honest.
How's your experience been?
It's been good.
Has it been a bit special?
It's been interesting.
Is seeing my bad hacking a part of all the hard work you've done?
I wouldn't call it hard work.
No.
I just turn up, I press a button.
You do?
Sometimes I focus.
Yeah, this is also another point. Focuses and doesn't put the umbrella in shot.
I like to do that.
Yeah, we'll put a little addendum now. Yes, we've realised that the first half of the James Bond episode was out of focus. Thanks, Spike, for pointing it out. But as soon as we look back at the footage, we did notice. So we appreciate the pointer, but fuck you. Do you want to defend yourself?
I pressed the focus button. It decided that you guys didn't have faces.
It usually does, or at least me. This is the thing. Whenever we're setting up for the episode, we always wait 10 minutes for him to set the camera up and everything. Because I don't know if you noticed, but since we came back, the quality is significantly better. We've upgraded to.
We're now in HD. Put this shot on Blu-ray.
The thing is, we have to wait for him to set the camera, and he's always got those little face recognition squares. You've always got a face. 9 times out of 10, I don't have a face. It's just that's not a person. It's not so much these days, but when we were first filming, you always used to just capture these little in-between filming moments. We'd do a section, we'd nip off to have a piss, he'd follow you with the camera just to see if he could catch any.
Thankfully it was quite dark at those points in time, so you usually just got the sound, which I think just made it worse because you could just hear us off camera go, Neil, fuck off.
There were a few instances he caught of you headbutting.
I headbutted him once, which was funny.
Yep.
And there's various threats I made between filming. A couple of times I punched you.
The infamous "I'll cut you twice."
Yeah, I don't even know. I couldn't figure out how to make "I'll cut you" more threatening, so I just threatened to do it again. As you do. There was one time he was literally stood there talking about gimping around with the camera and kicked his tripod, and it just fell out. We were just stood there watching this film. It's just sort of you're an absolute fucking chode.
Thankfully not happened since we got the new camera.
Neil and technology is kind of an ongoing gag between some of us here because there's Neil's sat nav, which
when we're setting off, it was we have to get to the East Coast. I'll go west. I know there's that song, but it's not life advice.
Remember that time we went to Sheffield?
I'd rather not.
No,
To be honest with you. Seriously, we went into the KFC there, and I honestly thought I was going to get stabbed. The person behind you in the queue's you're taking a bit too long to get your fried chicken, shank you, cut you twice, and then get some chicken.
I still think my favourite military figure from history is Colonel Sanders. He's not actually a legit colonel, but he's still, we've still got a lot to thank him for.
He's one of those guys in Marvel who calls themselves Doctor but don't have a doctorate, like Doctor Doom, for instance. So he's the Colonel, except he's never had any military service.
I assume Dr. Pepper doesn't have a doctorate either.
Shit.
Because I buy my stuff from like Coke, and I assume it's just a Mr. Coke. I don't need a doctorate for mine. If I want someone to do surgery, I ask for a doctorate, but I don't need some guy with a PhD to sell me drinks. I'm happy to buy it off just like Bob on the street. I don't need to go to it's like you got a master's degree in like fizzy drinks and shit. No, that's fine.
Dr. Pepper, you're a fraud. What's happening here?
I don't know. Maybe it's time for Neil to fuck off.
Thanks for joining us, Neil, and thank you for your valuable contribution to the series so far. I'm not really sure where to go from there, to be honest.
I know I kind of took us on a bit of a tangent there, so I'd
what we
say
specialise
getting
in.
back on topic, but we don't even really have much of a topic for this episode.
No.
It's just, hey, look what we did.
Maybe it's about time we should unveil our top 10 episodes.
Yeah, I was going to say, might be a good time to do that.
This is something, basically, to make it fair, Cammy, myself and Neil all voted for our top 10 episodes. We put them in order and then through a complicated point system that I won't get into, worked out which ones were the best. So number 10 on the list, as voted by us, is a very, very recent episode, Alcohol. We only did this a couple of weeks ago, but I think it was one of those that just, it really did go well.
It struck a chord with our viewer base, mainly because most of them, like me, belong in an alcoholics meeting. We're not quite there yet. That was the only episode as well we almost lost everything for because the memory card corrupted on that, and I thought we were going to have to redo it or do something else. Thankfully, we managed to recover the files. That's the only one that's ever happened.
Would have been a lost episode, and that would have been a real shame because I genuinely think it was a strong one. Let's have a look. There's been several nights where my parents have come home bladdered. One night in particular where my mum was so wasted because obviously, like, my parents live out in the countryside and they'd been to this pub which was about 4 or 5 miles away, and they couldn't get a lift home, so they basically ended up walking home. Like, so the whole way they crossed the A1, they were coming down these country lanes, and my mum was just like, "No, just leave me here. I'll sleep in a bushy, I'll be fine." My dad basically had to drag her home. So come on, baby. They went to bed. Dad was asleep. Mum had been in bed about an hour, and she was like, "Oh God, I've got to throw up. I'm never going to make it to the bathroom, so I'll throw up out the window." So Mum like half climbs up the windowsill, sticks her head out the window. Dad wakes up and thinks she's trying to jump out the fucking window, so he's trying to pull her back in as she's throwing up out. As like Jesus. So yeah, they can't say too much to me.
Yeah, that's some classy memories there. That's one of his, but that's not even one of my memories.
Number 9 on the list is Heavy Metal.
That was a great
episode 19. That was a weird one. I do remember you flipping a guitar.
That is one of the few cool things that has been caught on film, me just flipping a guitar around.
I do remember one time when we did a festival at Download Twisted Realm, which was like an acoustic thing in the campsite, and basically one of our friends lent us his very, very nice and really quite expensive acoustic guitar. I think it was a Gibson, wasn't it, or something?
It might have been a Gibson acoustic.
It was a proper nice guitar anyway, so he concludes the ultimate pain set by swinging it round his body. The strap broke and it went crashing into the floor.
But it was fine, it was quite soft off, so it literally hit the headstock and just went bouncing. I was like, oh, and all the people in front of me thought it was really funny, so I was just like, yeah, this is rock and roll. Then I had to go and casually, quietly pick up and take it to Adam and sort of like, yeah, this isn't broken, really sorry about that.
Let's take a look. There's been so many classic festival and, live memories. Some of the antics we got up to at the downloads over the years. We've had friends throw up in their tents, shit in their tents, literally shit in their tents.
Yeah, we're not going to mention who that was, but they're watching, they know who they are.
We've had people finding muffins on sticks. We've had people completely destroying their metal credentials by saying they just wanted to go home, have a bath and go to bed on the second night of the festival.
Wasn't that you?
No. It was someone else. Someone completely
Really?
me.
There we go.
I think it was him.
It was him.
No, he destroyed his metal credentials by wearing fucking black nail varnish.
I did.
And
I got
complaining that the
one,
hot chocolate was burning his fingers.
Yeah, that was an interesting episode. It was really, really drizzly and actually almost added to the metalness of it. But yeah, no, it was a good episode actually. I really enjoyed that one.
That was the episode we were filming in a field. It was raining and you fucking slipped over, wasn't it?
Yeah, the embankment there is quite steep, so.
But we were on a flat surface and we were standing still at the time when he jumped over. Number 8 on the list is another one from the comeback. It's actually the comeback episode, the return. Weird that an episode where we didn't actually have a topic turned out to be one of the best.
But it flowed quite well because it was sort of like a catch up. What have you been doing? What have I been doing?
Yeah, well,
Let's
let's talk
start this
about
shit
shit's
again.
happened, in the 2 years. Well illustrated, you falling over again, you fucking chode meister. Let's have a look anyway, the return. I did ask you to be my best man.
This is true.
And he did, and, I don't want to get soppy or anything because that's not what the show is about, but he did me proud. You did a really good job.
I appreciate it.
He took care of me on the day, when I was threatening to lose my shit at 10 in the morning.
You're getting married or I'm going to hurt you!
Yeah, he was very supportive. We were sat in the hotel room. He was sat on the bed drinking his cup of tea. I was topless doing the ironing, and I just had this moment of revelation where I was like, if we were a gay couple, this is essentially what our lives would be like. That's not what you want to be thinking about on the morning of your wedding, but... And then, he did the traditional speech, which was actually just brilliant. I mean, we'd always been talking about it's like, he could go two ways. He could surprise everyone and deliver a really sweet, heartfelt speech, or be a complete cunt, which was the more likely option. It's like, so this guy,
I went
he's a
about
bit of a
70-30.
twat. No, it was good. It was the right mix of sentimentality and funny. And I mean, it was genuinely funny. A lot of best man speeches, you sort of go, polite laughter while going, oh my god, I wish it was over so we could drink more. No, it was great.
That was a funny morning, actually, what you mentioned just before your wedding, because we were in one of the disabled suites at the hotel, which is where we were allowed to...
Not intentionally, they didn't do that because they saw us and wanted to put them in the disabled.
No, it's because it was a free room and lots of space we could all change in there and stuff. But I had a hip flask of whiskey on me, which was in my sort of suit pocket, but of course it was getting warm because it was next to me. So I decided I need to cool this down because otherwise my whiskey's more warm and rubbish throughout the day. And I ended up putting it in this little mini fridge they had there, but it wasn't a mini bar, it was a fridge for people with actual medical needs to put their medicines in to keep them cool. And I'm just sort of there, it's just like, well, here's my medicine going in your medicine fridge.
Standard.
Yep.
Episode number 7 on the countdown anyway is literature. Don't think that's a surprise for anyone.
I was gonna
Everyone
say-
loves watching you get hurt.
Literally, I wouldn't say the only redeeming feature of this episode, the main part of this episode is literally just me getting hit with books.
That's what people remember. But here's something that's not him getting hit by books.
I remember reading Lord of the Rings and stuff. The first one I read, I was working at a plastic grinding factory, and literally I had to pick up a massive heavy bit of plastic, put it in the grinder, wait for 2 minutes and get out. And I literally sat there for about a week just putting plastic in. You'd read about 4 pages, you'd have to get up, you'd have to put another bit in, and just read the entire first Lord of the Rings book like that. So I associate the first Lord of the Rings book with grinding plastic.
Well, that can't be a very pleasant association. Every time you watch Lord of the Rings, you just start like having a Vietnam flashback. Just fall to the ground, shake, and just go, I can smell plastic. Do you still have the flashbacks?
No, I can't even remember what that plastic smelled like. It wasn't like particularly unpleasant, but I just remember there was a very particular smell of the plastic mixing with whatever fluid they had to make it go through the grinder easier. Which is a very interesting story, so shall we move on?
Let's do that. So number 6 on the list is episode 20, Britishness.
Ah, yes.
I've had a few people tell me that this is their favourite episode that we've ever made. So here's a clip from Britishness. Like fish and chips. That's like everyone thinks, oh, Britain, fish and chips, People are much more likely to go out and have a fucking McDonald's or get a curry from the local curry house or get a chow mein than actually go and get fish and chips.
It's one of the things I do really like about Britain being multicultural. You can go to any major city and have your choice of cuisine from anywhere in the world.
Cuisine in the loosest sense. You say
Well,
cuisine
it
and
depends
think
where
of
you're going.
like a fucking stuffed quail that Heston Blumenthal's going to serve you on a naked
All right.
arse. You're talking cuisine
All right, fine.
like a box of grease that some foreigner's going to give
No, I
you.
don't necessarily mean you go to like a fucking charcoal grill
Oh,
at 1 o'clock in
no.
the morning.
Oh,
I mean something like, like Chiquitos, something like that in Nottingham where you're getting Mexican food.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny considering Chiquitos in Nottingham now, the amount of Mexican food on their menu is just decreasing and decreasing year by year.
I also love that
It's
your
a
idea
shame.
of cuisine is Chiquitos.
Well, that was the first thing that came to mind.
So number 5 on the list is horror. This is an episode I think most people remember for us scrabbling around in an abandoned
I was going to say,
control tower.
this is the first time we filmed somewhat other than at the Stoke Rochford as well, so that was a bit special for that reason as well.
It was. It's one of those episodes, obviously it's a topic that's pretty close to my heart. Let's have a look. This happened to one of my mum's friends who she went to school with. It was when they were in their late teens, early 20s. He was watching, I believe it was The Evil Dead, I think he was house sitting for someone. He wasn't in his own home. He was alone in his house, and he'd watched The Evil Dead. He fell asleep on the sofa. Meanwhile, outside, someone had had a motorbike accident, and as I say, the house was reasonably isolated, so that was the first place they saw. The door was unlocked, so basically he's watched The Evil Dead, fallen asleep and woken up to some guy leaning over him with blood all streaked down his face. Understandably, he shit himself, but eventually called an ambulance and the guy was taken care of. One of the films we've watched since then, which was great, because you're not a guy who gets scared very easily. It's like a lot of times I've seen you scared, but we were watching Sinister last Halloween.
That was unsettling for a few reasons. There were a few jump moments. That was more sort of like a
psychological.
Building up to a psychological type of thing. But that was one of the very few films I just was sort of sat there like, ah!
The other thing we've discovered recently that I seen scared him was Five Nights at Freddy's. We first played that at Neil's birthday party just a couple of weeks ago. We were just sitting there and he had his laptop hooked into the TV. We were talking about horror games, a couple that are coming out. Silent Hills was the one we were talking about, and then we got onto other things. And then it was like, let's just download Five Nights at Freddy's and play that. Like 15 minutes later, when we're all just like gibbering wrecks on the floor.
It wasn't brilliant.
Probably enough of that.
It wasn't brilliant either, because I think we'd all eaten a really big meal that night, and you don't really want to be having like a sudden jump start because you might crap yourself.
Anyway, number 4 on the list is Sherlock Holmes.
Excellent episode, this one.
One of the first ones we filmed. This was episode number 5, I think.
Wow, that early.
It's the first one to me where we'd really found our feet. I mean, like the Christmas episode, that was pretty good, but I think Sherlock Holmes was the first one where we really got our shit together and everything flowed and it worked.
We got the format together, though.
Definitely. Let's take a look. Sherlock Holmes.
It's a bit steampunk, which is in at the start of the first film. He's running around doing a bit of parkour, which I wasn't aware was quite so popular back then.
It's called Bartitsu. There's less of the Matrix shit from the film. It was more like, if you're on a bicycle and there's a ruffian in front of you, leap off your bike and twat him with it.
That's quite good.
It's the best defence when you're in the Victorian age, I suppose.
There is quite a lot of shit you see them doing, and you just look at it and think, it's really good, but they wouldn't have like done that back then. They'd have been a bit more
fisticuffs. What?
Exactly.
Duchess of Queensberry rules.
Exactly.
Another thing we have watched since then is the Sherlock TV series, which is very good. Benedict Cumberbatch has done very well in that, and Martin Freeman.
Yeah, also watching that, I realised I should have said Marquess of Queensberry rules, Duchess of Queensberry rules is something the WWF did.
Either or, whatever.
One of those things, you know, when you're watching an episode back, you go, oh, I got that wrong. There's one point, in fact, in the Game of Thrones episode, I think I got Missandei's age wrong. I said she was 12 in the books when she's 9 or something. But so episode number 3 is one of those where it wasn't a topic we were particularly keen on, but we think it went well. It's sports.
I'd say this is probably the most dark horse out of all the episodes, that this is something we have almost zero knowledge on, but at the end of the day it turned out to be
it was
one
definitely
of the
a pleasant
ones we
surprise to go in there talking about sports, which I know nothing about, and get this. So this went quite well. Let's have a look. Yeah, cheese rolling is the other spot. Being
cheese rolling. That just thing to me is like, that is the most British thing you can see. Like, people talk about incorrect humour and, you know, slightly racist stuff. We look at something another culture does and takes a piss out of them. I fucking hope on the other side of the world, someone in Thailand or something is watching that and go, those stupid fucking Brits. You could just go to a supermarket and buy some fucking cheese. But no, these retards decide to throw themselves down a fucking hill. I just watch it as well, like the people, they look all like fucking Wiccans or hippies or druids or whatever they want to be called. You just watch these utterly gormless twats running down a hill after a bit of cheese like, go to fucking Tesco! It's not that hard, seriously. I'm gonna risk a fucking spinal fracture to get myself a bit of cheese. It's not worth it. I love cheese. Fucking buy some. Hey, melt cheese on anything, it makes it better.
I was quite impassioned that night. I don't know why. I just suddenly, but I just got in the zone.
Love that we're like doing an episode on sports and we ended up talking about cheese rolling as well. Like, I mean, number 2 episode on the list, the penultimate favourite episode for us was toys. That was another episode that was just, you know, great nostalgia and something to talk about, you know. We got to talk about some of the toys we'd had in our childhoods. So check this out. It was an Action Man knockoff and he was in like a scuba suit with flippers and everything.
Not the one with the shifty eyes.
No, because it wasn't a real Action Man. But yeah, he was in like a scuba suit with these little flippers. So I had him and like for weeks I just thought this was the balls. I had my own Action Man. Then I lost his flippers, so he was just like an Action Man in a scuba suit. Still fine. Then I lost the scuba suit. The thing is that with him being a knockoff Action Man, you know, Action Man had like plastic hair. It was like completely molded into his head. This guy had like a head and then like sort of felty sort of hair.
I remember some of them had that, which is really weird.
But the problem was, in my enthusiasm and playing with him, I'd kind of rubbed quite a bit of it off. So basically, what had been my bitching Action Man just a couple of weeks before was now just a balding, naked guy in my room.
I can't remember if I've mentioned this before in an episode, but this is a story I've told before. I was in a pub once, and Spike, who photographed your wedding, turned up. I was waiting for somebody else's birthday. He turned up around the corner with some girl he'd been taking photos of. This is Cameron. He mentioned some crude insult. He's our token bald man round here. And the girl he was with came up and stroked my head. Was sort of, you got hair like an Action Man. I was just sort of like, I'm not sure whether I should be insulted by that or not. So thank you.
Well, number one episode could only be one thing, really, couldn't it?
We know
it
it's
comes
going
as no
to be.
surprise. Kids TV.
Yeah.
It was just Joe spacking away off camera with pride. Everything just came together for that episode, really. It was one of those things. We just got talking about stuff that was, you know, of interest to us all, and it flowed well. Let's have a look. Our favourite episode, Kids TV.
Every week Rita throws her staff like from the moon to the earth. Does she either have a lot of staffs, or does every week she have to go down and
There's
get it
some poor
back?
little FedEx bastard who goes driving looking for it with like some primitive GPS, finds it, sticks it in his fucking van and gets back up there. I did like a lot of stuff, like when Lord Zed's putties came along, it's like the most obvious place, with like weakness is like the obvious place to hit me, like this massive Z on my chest.
That's it, like the putties were the original villains, and then they bought in these Z putties. They're like basically the genome guards of putties. They're the elite, and then you just punch them and they explode. Well, they actually had to defeat the putties properly. These ones, they could just literally just go. Boop.
I'm sure they did in many points, just poke them in the chest and they explode.
Thanks, Joe. So,
Putties were the shittest of enemies. I mean, when you look back at things like there's a gag in the Austin Powers films when it's just like, you've not even got a name badge, you know, what chance do you have against me? Putties were just a generic,
the mookiest
faceless
of mooks,
enemy.
definitely,
Just like, yeah, we'll just slap him, he'll be dead.
So that was our top 10 episodes. Now, there is one other episode that, you know, all three of us love, and has generally, with the comments that we get, been like a universally loved episode, but we didn't think we could include it because it's technically not.
It's not an episode of its own right.
No, but the blooper episode that we put out, I mean, I think it's probably the thing I'm most proud of because it took a lot of editing together, but I think it came out quite well.
I think it shows us at our best as opposed to when we're actually trying. It's just sort of, this is what happens normally.
Best or worst.
Both.
But yeah, like I say, a lot of people have come afterwards and said, you know, God, that was funny, so we might as well just show a clip from our bloopers episode.
That was quite a bit. That was a disappointing clink. Let's try that again. There we go.
Fuck's sake. Alright.
That would have been funny if we kept that bit in. Alright. Alright, one more time.
What is with the acoustics of these bottles tonight? I'm sorry, I can't. That sounded really good as well.
Let's keep trying this. Let's just like stand there, like so I can be, you know, like the Blue Man Band. Just give me a bunch of beer bottles taped to my body, and I just, you know, like knee slapping. When you see like those hillbilly guys do, I'll just do it with bottles, but occasionally you just break one over my head, just like. Okay. This is some gold material we're getting here, so I'll go to the episode.
Hang on, okay.
It's funny that you mention that because there's quite a few times in episodes we've had to clink just because the acoustics have either sounded too good or not good enough. We'll just make really like odd noises, and like if it's too good, we'll laugh. Like just for example, let's see. See, that's quite a decent one there.
Yeah.
But like other times we've done it, it's like.
It's good to look back on, because I mean, like, I don't know about you, but I'm not a huge fan of just sitting and watching myself talk or dance or whatever it might be. But it is really nice to sort of look back and, you know, whatever, a year probably total, you know, 10 hours, 50 episodes worth of material that we've got, and, you know, seeing the highlights like that, it makes you sort of think, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I did this. I'm glad that this is something that I put my time into. Yeah, and I mean, I know for you just have to turn up here and drink and talk shit. I mean, I've got the editing to do afterwards, which, you know, but it's worth it to, you know, sort of.
Yeah, it has been.
It's good to look back, and this has always been a fun and special episode, but a little sadness because it's also likely to be our last episode.
It is.
This guy's disappearing off to uni, moving
Going to
however
the
many
deep south.
hundreds miles away.
About 185 miles, I think.
So that's that's about all she wrote on A Couple of Cunts in the Countryside. And I mean, it's sad, but at the same time, like I say, it's a body of work I can look at, and
I think we've done what we need to do. And I'm happy with it.
it's been a good run, and I think this was a nice way to sort of cap things off. Obviously, this was a 50th special, but to have it as a finale as well, you know, get everyone back who's contributed, and to just sort of look back at some of the highlights of what's been a strange, drunken, sometimes
Social
challenging, but always enjoyable journey. So, I mean, thanks to everyone who's stuck
Wasted
it out
their
and
time.
watched it with us. Thanks to everyone who's contributed, and obviously thanks to you for doing this with me.
Thank you for Neil for filming and stuff, and thank you for editing and whatever.
Well, we've been A Couple of Cunts in the Countryside along with some good friends. If you enjoyed this video, like, favourite and share with your friends. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you didn't enjoy this episode, well, there's not going to be any more, so I guess you got your wish. This is usually the point where I'd say feel free to suggest a topic for us to talk about in a future episode, but there probably won't be a future episode, so I'll just say thanks for putting up with our shit for all this time.
And remember, you can take the cunt out the countryside, but you can't take the countryside out of the cunt.